Good morning, Louisa. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well on this day before Thanksgiving.
Yes.
I know that you have a lot of things to be thankful for this year. You have a beautiful new baby.
Yes. A new baby that doesn't sleep, but I love him.
That's wonderful. Babies don't sleep, but it's good. And here at Virtual Arts, we're so excited to be doing a new version of A Christmas Carol.
Mhm.
Um, and Do you want to tell us a little bit about this, a virtual Christmas Carol?
Sure, absolutely. So I wrote this during the pandemic because the whole script screams pandemic. I had to start writing for the virtual world because that's all that was happening at the time. Theaters were shutting down, uh, theaters weren't doing anything in person, and I said, what can we do that will work on a virtual platform. So I really love adapting classics, and it just comes from me being a former English teacher myself. I was a high school English teacher for 11 years before I had children. And I just love literature. And I said, what can we do for the holidays that will work on a virtual platform? And I said, you know what? Let me look at A Christmas Carol. And it's so iconic, and the themes are so universal that I felt it would definitely work. And who doesn't love a good adaptation of A Christmas Carol? And everyone was turning into Scrooge at the time. So,
Yeah.
I felt like everybody could relate to feeling a little Scroogish, at times or all the time during the pandemic. And we were, to really kind of like analyze where I was coming from, I just felt like we were not, as humans, we were not interacting anymore, and we were snapping and being short with each other because of what was going on around us in the world. And I said, you know, how great would it be to create this virtual Christmas Carol where we can relate to Scrooge and relate to what he's going through, and kind of question ourselves on how we can become kinder and gentler as human beings and as a society, you know?
Yeah, yeah, wonderful, wonderful. And any success in that, do you think, for our society?
I I think we're working on it. I think
We are.
we're a work in progress. I think the pandemic, which is still ongoing to me, I think we still are in a pandemic, but I think what 2020 did to us as a society and as humans, individual human beings, kind of really ruptured our souls, and we had to do a lot of seeking, whether it was on a personal level or a professional level. How many people were stuck at home, having to think about their personal or professional lives and reevaluate. And that's what Scrooge essentially has to do. He has to reevaluate how he's been acting his whole life, and he has to think about the things that happened in the past to him and how they have affected him now as a person. And that's what we've done. Like, we were just sitting at home doing nothing, so I think we all had to kind of think about that ourselves.
Now, I know that you say that Scrooge, had to sit at home. Talk to us about the Scrooge in this piece.
So the Scrooge in this piece is a female. It doesn't always have to be, the casting with A Virtual Christmas Carol can be kind of anything that a director wants. In this version, we have a female. I don't want to give away too much, but we have a female Scrooge, and she's amazing. I got to watch the rehearsal last night, and she's just so phenomenal, as is the rest of the cast.
Yeah, yeah, it's really wonderful. How do you think Charles Dickens would feel about a female Scrooge?
Oh, I don't think Charles Dickens would approve, to be honest, but he's gone. So, like, you know,
And why do you think he wouldn't approve?
because he's Charles Dickens. Um, I think at that time they were male protagonists, and he really essentially is the protagonist and the antagonist in one, really, because he's against himself through the entire, first half of the original. But I don't know. I mean, if he was alive now, he'd probably have to adapt to the world in 2022, and he'd have to tell me it's fine to have a female Scrooge. So
What's wonderful is that people, authors like you, see that as a possibility, because the classics are great, but do they have to be performed by the sexes that were chosen by those authors? I saw a couple years ago, I saw Glenda Jackson do King Lear on Broadway, and she was King Lear.
yeah,
it was and it worked, and it was wonderful. And I think that in terms of diversity and unusual casting, well, it may not always be unusual to put a woman in a man's role. I think that I've seen many versions of this show, but never a woman in this show, and an Italian woman too. Okay. Because
hey, we're like the best representation of Scrooge, Italian women.
absolutely. And Conchetta is so far from who Scrooge is, because she's just one of the most giving, wonderful people that we know. But anyway, I wanted just to speak with you a little bit about this, to wish you happy holidays, and also to say that I'm thrilled that you're a part of the Virtual Arts family. And I read your play that's going to be in our spring festival and loved it, and loved your monologue, which we'll talk to you more about. But thank you so much for being part of who we are and wanting to represent diversity in theater. It's so important.
Yes, the most important, really.
The only thing more important, I think, actually, Louisa, is to eat as much stuffing as I can tomorrow.
You know what? You're right. You win. You win.
Okay. Well, listen, happy Thanksgiving, and I look so forward to seeing the play next week.
Thank you. Thank you. And happy Thanksgiving to you as well.
Everybody, come see our show, Louisa Vilardi's adaptation of a Charles Dickens Christmas Carol.
Thank you.
Thank you, Louisa.